I was given the charge to talk about stem cell tourism just a little while ago, so I didn't have much time to prepare. In fact, I didn't really prepare. I just kind of thought about what I wanted to get across. I'm not going to talk very long. Oh, I just wanted to also say that I've studied Parkinson's disease since 1984. I was going to do fetal transplants for a different indication, totally different disease. And I walked into my postdoctoral advisor's office on the first day I got to University of Rochester. I go, well, I'm here to do vasopressin transplants. He goes, nope, you're going to be my Parkinson's guy. This is what we're going to do. And that changed my life forever, and I love studying Parkinson's disease, and I'm passionate about helping patients with PD. So again, I'm delighted to be here. Also, I've been with the Michael J. Fox Foundation since they opened their doors as an advisor. I'm now serving my second term on their executive SAB. I saw Michael a couple weeks ago. He told him that I was coming here, and he just wanted me to pass along his regards and tell you that he's in this fight with you, and you're all in this fight together. And for those of you who haven't met him, he's just exactly as you see on TV. Just the most wonderful guy I've ever met, and quite an inspiration. So he just wanted me to say hi. So what is stem cell tourism? Stem cell tourism is people going to places to get therapies that are totally unproven. Now, Dr. Barker was talking about what we need to have in our clinical trials are outcomes that occur all the time. You have the same outcome in all the different patients. Well, I can tell you, stem cell tourism, the good news is that there is an outcome that's always the same. And that outcome is poverty, because they're going to charge you a ton of money for things that don't work. And that's consistent across the board. And so there are all these places where you can see all these ads, and and I thank Helen for actually getting me these just a little while ago. And stem cell therapies can change your life. And it doesn't really matter what you got. You can have arthritis, Parkinson's disease, strokes, obstructive pulmonary disease, traumatic brain injury, multiple sclerosis. Stem cells cure everything, as long as you have money, of course. And if you don't have money, stem cells won't work. And then another place, regenerative medicine with birth tissue. Never heard, until I saw this, never heard birth tissue before. But again, anytime, any disease you have, you can fly to places and get these therapies. And again, all they're going to do is fleece you for your money. Now, we're talking about Parkinson's disease. I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls from people who've been diagnosed with other diseases, like ALS, which is a horrible degenerative disease, is always fatal. And people go to me, well, there's this place in Mexico where they're giving stem cells. And for something like ALS, and they say to me, what should I do? I said, look, this is bogus. It's going to spend $35,000, $50,000. It's not going to work. But who am I to say, people entering this phase of a disease that is universally fatal? Who am I to say, no, don't go there? But this is not what Parkinson's disease is. People with Parkinson's disease live a normal lifespan. Now, I'm not trying to minimize in any way the disability and the pain and suffering that you guys go through having Parkinson's disease. But the need for such a type of intervention when the cost is so high and it's not going to work is really, really problematic. And so I highly recommend you never avail yourself of this. And then, you can say, well, what's the worst that can happen, right? I have the money, it's my money, if I want to spend it. Well, bad stuff can really happen. Now, it's not so much a company, but I'll give you an example. There was a guy named Dr. Iacono out in California a number of years ago who was taking patients from California. He was inserting a catheter into the fluid-filled spaces of the brain and then flying these people to China. And in China, they would dissect fetal tissue, not stem cells, but fetal cells, the kind that Dr. Barker used using in the transeuro trial. And he would inject it through this catheter into the fluid-filled spaces. So one person A couple weeks later died, or maybe a month or two later died. And then when they looked at the brain, he had teeth, fat cells, hair, and other skin cell types growing in his brain, because these cells are so young that they can develop into anything, and they probably misdissected it. And so it's not just, well, I have the money and nothing bad can happen. Bad stuff can happen. So there's transplantation must be such an, I mean, I'm thrilled by it now, and I hope you all appreciate it. We had some of the most rigorous scientists in the world present to you a little earlier today. Dr. Takahashi and Palmer and Dr. and Roger and Claire. And what you have there is just fantastic, fantastic rigor. Science is not religion. And I just want to talk a little bit about, so one of the most influential moments in my career, I'll tell you this story. Dr. Bjorklund was here. And when I was a postdoc in 1986, Dr. Bjorklund had already just created the field of transplantation. And he was my hero and a leader. And we're at a meeting together. And my mentor was giving a talk, and it was obvious from the questions that Dr. Bjorklund asked after the talk that he didn't necessarily believe the data that my mentor was presenting. So then there was a coffee break, and I run up to him. I go, Dr. Bjorklund, I don't understand why you don't believe this data. And he said something to me that resonated, and I've kept with me forever in my career. And this is what science is all about. It's not up to him to believe me. It's up to me to prove it to him. Do you understand the difference? So that's what happens. All these stem cells, this tourism here, they haven't proved anything to anybody. They don't have the rigor of Dr. Takahashi and all the others that you saw here today. There is no evidence that these things actually work. And for some reason, the transplant field has been filled with people in the history that have been charlatans. And I'm not sure why this field has been filled with such people. There's a very famous story of a man named Ignacio Madrazo. Before we did fetal cells, we were trying to graft adrenal medullary cells. These are cells that are sitting right above your kidney. And if you take out the inner part of this gland, you make a little bit of dopamine. Not a lot, but a little bit of dopamine. And people were grafting them into patients with Parkinson's disease with no success. And then there was this paper in the New England Journal of Medicine with a couple of patients where they claimed they totally cured Parkinson's disease. And there was video of a guy sitting in a wheelchair, totally disabled, and then playing soccer with his son in the backyard. And just amazing. And people went crazy, absolutely crazy. And they, hundreds and hundreds of patients were done. No one got any better. And this person fell into total disrepute. And in fact, not only did no one get better, a lot of people were injured because not so much the brain surgery, but the removal of the adrenal gland caused a lot of side effects in these patients. Now, there are these other trials that are, so that was many years ago. And there are other trials that are ongoing now that are, in my view, equally fraudulent. So this is what's called mesenchymal stem cells. It's different than what Dr. Takahashi and Marlon were talking about. And they grafted these into monkeys. And so I got up and I asked the speaker, I said, well, how many of these cells, I knew the answer before I even asked the question, because I know these cells don't survive in the brain. Roger, don't worry, I'm not going to, you look at it, it's okay. And I go, how many cells survived? And he goes to me, you have a guess? How many, what he told me? 20 million. He said to me, no one's grafted any cells in the history of Parkinson's disease where you get 20 million cells surviving. So I said, 20 million? He goes, yes, but you can't really see them. I go, well, how do you know they're there? And he gave me just this crazy answer. And then the other crazy part was that, when we do these rating scales, just like in monkeys, just like we do in humans, down is good, up is bad. And so what he had was, in his treated group, he had these monkeys going down, 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 down. And then in his control group, they went down, 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 down. He had what spontaneous recovery in these monkeys. The difference between his two groups was 1 point. And so we're going, well, you don't even have a functional effect. And he goes, are you crazy? Now, I'm the wrong person to say that to. And so we pointed out to him that they didn't even know their own data. And it's interesting that, do you know where this company is from, that they took the trial to Australia? They're in California. Why would a California company go to Australia? Make sure you point the camera right at me, okay? Because the FDA would never allow them to get into the clinic in the United States. So they're recruiting all these patients, and they are doing a trial. And it's just crazy, in my view. It's crazy. So in addition to companies charging you a lot of money for bogus therapies, there are also so these are just crazy people. There are also these biotech companies that get venture capital money, so you don't actually have to pay for the therapy. But in my view, these trials are baseless. And so we ask you to be patient. I know we've been promising a cure for Parkinson's. We always say it's going to be 5 years, and we've been saying it for 30 years. And we are sorry. But I want to tell you something. We will get there. And I'll tell you why we'll get there. I used to do Alzheimer's research. And I stopped doing Alzheimer's research because I couldn't stand the people. The researchers were always fighting each other and backbiting. And, it just wasn't a great environment. I love my movement disorder colleagues. We are collegial. The G-Force group is a great example of people coming together and working together for a common cause. And I promise you that the movement disorders doctors and scientists are doing everything we can every day. We're inspired by you. And I'm telling you, we will get there. We may not get there with stem cells, but there are a lot of other therapies that we're working on. Stem cells are just one therapy. But I urge you not to become desperate, any more desperate than your disease is causing you. Speak to your doctors. There are options for patients with Parkinson's disease. And I can tell you the science is coming. And we're doing everything in our power to make your lives better and to try and cure Parkinson's disease. And I'll stop there.